Hello and welcome to the Awaken Feminine podcast. I'm your host, Kaki Lee, a mindset coach and healer who's on a mission to share the love and wisdom of inspiring women from around the world who have gone through adversity and turned their pain into purpose. Today, I'm thrilled to be interviewing meditation teacher Joy Reynolds, who I know has so much love and wisdom to share with us today. Do I have you there, Joy?
Yes, you do, Kaki. Thank you for having me. Lovely to be here.
Welcome. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me on the Awaken Feminine podcast. Before we get started, can you share with us a little bit more about you, what you do, and where you're joining me from?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm joining you from Melbourne in Victoria in Australia. And we're currently in a stage 4 lockdown. So it's interesting times here at the moment during this COVID-19. It's been interesting. We've probably got one of the heaviest lockdowns of the world at the moment, but we're getting by, getting through it. But it has allowed me to really develop the programs that I want to develop. So, there's always a positive to anything. But just, a little bit about me. I spent most of my life, I've been in and out of entrepreneurship over the years. Actually, I was thinking about it recently, and I actually started my entrepreneur journey back when my children were babies. I had a little clothing company with a friend of mine. We make kids' clothes. It was called Thingamy Kids.
Oh, nice.
And I'd completely forgotten about that. And we used to stay up all night making these clothes and making patterns and selling them, party plan. And so that was many years ago. But over the years, I've mainly been in corporate. My life has been in the corporate space as an executive assistant, and then I moved into governance type roles and into senior management and various roles like that over the years. And then I broke away from that a few years ago and had my own coaching practice and hypnotherapy practice. And I've been teaching meditation for over 20 years, on and off. So that's essentially my background.
Love that. Before we dive in, I just thought I'll share a little bit about how Joy and I met. So we briefly met, I think maybe a year and a half ago at a business event. Could be longer, I can't remember, but around that time. And funnily enough, we only recently reconnected via her partner, Kevin, who is my accountability buddy. So hi, Kev, if you're listening or watching, and I know you will be because Joy's on. So Joy, let's unpack your journey a bit more. So you mentioned that you were in corporate and you've obviously kind of ebbed and flowed through your life, and now you're a meditation teacher. So what I guess, what's your journey that led you to this space? Was there like a spiritual awakening or aha moment that led you down this path?
Yeah, sure. I actually call myself a meditation mentor.
Okay.
A sort of mastery mentor in meditation and mindset, because they go together. But I've been teaching meditation for a number of years. But how I got into meditation was over 20 years ago. So it was about 24 years ago, I think. Might have been a little bit longer. I was going through a really difficult time in my life, and I'd separated from my husband at the time, who's the father of my 2 girls. And it was at a time when I thought everything was great, but anyway, it wasn't so great. And we separated, and I became a single mum. But it was just a time where it really hit me for 6, and my self-esteem was really, really low. I was in quite a dark place. I think that's probably the darkest place I've ever been in my life. I've gone through a lot of things, and I'm a very resilient person, but that was a real struggle for me. And I just didn't really know how to get out of it. And I had a lot of anger built up inside of me. It was just this anger, and I just struggled to get out of it. And at around about the same, or a little bit, a couple of years after that also, my youngest daughter was going through a difficult time too. She was struggling a little bit into her very early teenage years, and I didn't know how to help her. And a colleague of mine recommended meditation. said that, you should try meditation. And she went to our meditation center on a regular basis. And I tried a number of different things, but I just wasn't really sure about it. I didn't know enough about it. In my mind, it was just for hippies.
Yeah.
Only
Back in those
hippies,
days, right?
sort of this woo-woo kind of thing. And,
Yeah.
I just had no understanding at all. And I think my mind was quite closed off to it initially. But I did think about it, and I thought, look, I've got to try something. And so I went along to the meditation centre, and it was here in Melbourne. I've spent the last 10 years in Queensland, and we've just been back in Melbourne since January this year. But when my journey started here in Melbourne, and I went along to the centre, and I was doing it for my daughter, wasn't doing it for me. I was doing it in my mind, I was doing it for somebody else. And I walked in, and look, I can still remember it like it's yesterday. It just feels like it was yesterday to me. I can see myself, even just placing my first step into the centre, and just felt this amazing, it was like a wave of love and peace. It just hit me, and I had never ever experienced it before. It was just incredible. It was just this moment in time, like, wow, where am I? And I went in and sat down, and there were a room for there were a number of people in the room, and there was a teacher up at the front, but everyone was just sitting there and meditating, although I had no idea what I was doing. I just sat there and closed my eyes.
I think that's what we all do when we first start meditating. It's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, no, I'll just sit here and close. Everyone's got their eyes closed. I'll just sit here and close my eyes too. But it was at that moment, I had an amazing experience. I knew nothing of meditation, but I just felt this overwhelming feeling of peace and love just in the room. And it was just the power of a group meditation that has a lot of power behind it. But I just felt, wow, and I said to myself, this is what I have been looking for my whole life. I just felt it, and I had this knowing that this is what I had been looking for, and this is what I needed. And so that was that moment for me that, I just knew that I was going to keep coming back here. And when I left, and actually it's really interesting, they did, the meditation was finished, and then they have a little talk after the meditation and talked about someone had just come back from India and attended an ashram in India, and someone spoke about that. And I walked out that night in my mind saying to myself, I'm going to India. Never, ever would have thought anything like that, ever. But in my mind, I'm going to do that. I'm going to India. So I knew that this is something that I would need to develop a regular practice. So they had courses there. So they had positive thinking courses and meditation courses. I took all of the courses. I really immersed myself in the meditation. I was attending early mornings. I was meditating daily. And I just found the shift. It's a very subtle shift. In fact, other people saw the shift before I actually saw the changes in me. But I just loved it. So many things happened to me at that point in time. It was a time in my life where it was actually the start of a healing journey for me, because my self-esteem was so low, and I really struggled to see myself as anything other than what other people wanted me to be, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. So I struggled, and I started drinking wine at night, which I wasn't doing, but I'd find that one glass wouldn't be enough, 2 glasses wouldn't be enough. Not that I don't have an addictive personality at all, but I was just using lots of different things to numb out feelings and how I was feeling. But when I started the meditation course, within about 6 weeks, I found that I would taste the wine and say, oh, that doesn't taste very nice. And I made an assumption that I was drinking really cheap wine. So I would buy more expensive wine. And it still didn't taste great. So I'd be tipping it out. I wasn't using it. And I remember asking one of the teachers, that this had happened. And she said to me, yes, that's what happens. She said, you don't need those things, because meditation is giving you everything that you need.
Yeah.
And that was really powerful. And I just continued, and that was the start of my healing journey, the start of my journey into learning and studying it. And I did go to India. I did
Awesome.
study meditation in India, and I attended retreats all over the world. And then I went on to study so many other things, coaching, hypnotherapy, NLP, lots and lots of things.
Yeah. I got full goosebumps when you told me that how you felt when you first walked into the
Yeah.
meditation center. It's
I
just
get them
so,
now, even when I can feel it.
yeah, it's just so beautiful how powerful meditation is. And you were saying that back in the day was woo woo. And to some extent now, I think people still classify as woo woo, even though there's a lot of scientific evidence now coming out saying how great meditation is for your mind, for just reducing anxiety, depression, all those kind of things. But it's still classed as a woo woo thing. So it's great that you're spreading this
Yeah.
message of meditation and how it can help you. So um, so I want to ask you. So obviously you did all the courses and you went to India, and then you said you were in corporate for a while. So when was this transition for you to really step into becoming that meditation mentor? Was it a catalyst that made you decide, I'm going to transition into this space like right now?
Um, it was really interesting. Whilst I was learning about myself and learning that I am a soul and understanding who I was, and you know, learning that and discovering my true self, discovering that soul consciousness within me, and
Yeah.
the fact that I wasn't all of these things that people labeled me as, as the executive assistant, as the mum, as the wife or the ex-wife, or whatever it was. And I realized that I had been probably wearing a mask most of my life. So when that mask came away and I was comfortable being who I was and who I am, which is a soul, it's interesting. I wanted everybody to feel how I was feeling.
Yeah.
And as you do when you discover something
Yeah.
new, and you
Totally get that. Yeah.
so I would do things like at work, say things like, if I had to be introduced, and I stopped doing this for a while because it was just like, who is this person? I remember I started when I first started my coaching course, and I'll get on to how I got into that in a minute. But when I first started my coaching course, I had to introduce myself to the group in the class, and I introduced myself as uh, this body is named Joy. I am a soul. Like this. I'm a soul, but this body is called Joy. And people would just look at me and go, hello, like not knowing what to do. Luckily, I was at doing a coaching, my coaching certificate, and people were a bit more open,
Yeah.
But I did say that to someone once, and then they said to me, I don't know about that, Jo. I don't know if you should introduce yourself like that. People just don't get
Oh
it.
my goodness.
And I wanted everybody to feel it and experience it and understand it.
Yeah.
And I would talk about it at work, and I think people just thought, oh, she's gone a bit woo-woo. But I probably hid it a little bit for a little while in terms of, not, which went against discovering who I am and then trying to hide who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how I got got out of the sort of the corporate, what the catalyst, I guess, for me was to, I was working in corporate and I was mentoring. So I was a senior executive assistant, and I mentored all of the other executive assistants in the organisation. That was part of what my role was. And I've always mentored people all through my life.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just what happens
Yeah.
for me. So I was mentoring them, and I discovered that the mentor sessions were getting really draining for me, because it was all a bit of a whinge session, and it's the same stories each week. I hate my boss, and this happened and that happened, and no one was accountable or taking responsibility, all of these things, and a bit of a gossip conversation, a negative conversation. And once I started meditation, I was probably more aware of that going on around me. Prior to that, I probably wasn't as aware, and I was probably involved in those conversations. But when you move into this different space of understanding who you are, and you go on this personal development journey, you see that that the types of conversations you want to have are not the ones that are going to the below the line conversations, so to speak. So there's the above the line and the below the line. And I found them really draining, and I thought, I just don't want to do these anymore. And I thought, I wondered, how can I have these conversations? How can these be better? Because I want them to be better. And I looked up coaching. I don't know how. I don't know how I thought I would look up coaching, but I somehow, maybe I was just searching, and I looked up and thought, I'd like to do coaching. And I spoke to my boss, who was so open and supportive at the time, and he said, go for it, just go for it. So he paid for the company paid for my coaching course, so I did coaching, and then I was able to because you have to have so many hours up before you can get those certificates, those sorts of things. So I already essentially had clients, because I had all of these people that I was currently mentoring. So then I became a coach, and I was coaching them, and everything shifted. Everything shifted. Their lives changed, different conversations. Some of them realised that they didn't even want to be in that job and left the job, which is what I wanted to say to them all along.
It's phenomenal. It's so good.
And they had to take responsibility, because the goals and actions and those sorts of things. So and I was at that point, I thought, this is so powerful. And that's when I would introduce meditation to them, because that was incredibly powerful to help them to connect with their inner world, and to help them to understand that all these conversations that they're having, and the whinges and all of the things going on around them that's affecting their inner world, that's on the outside, and they're allowing that on the inside. So that's how that happened. So from there, I was then able to introduce meditation into the actual business as a program.
I love that. And it's so inherent in workplaces that people don't take responsibility for anything, right? It's so common for people to complain about everything, but they don't they don't think of a solution. So all they're doing is just reacting, and they're reacting in a negative way. And a lot of times, as you say, you probably wanted to say, you should just leave if you don't want to be here. Why don't you do that? Right? But they're just in their stories. So having that coaching is so powerful, and then introducing that meditation, so that as they move on to do whatever else, then they can be more mindful as to, where they really want to be. So that's amazing. I love that. So having gone through, your journey with separation from your husband, and then your meditation journey, what is your personal mission, Joy? What are you here on this earth to do?
Well, I'm here to serve. We're all here to serve. That's all of our mission. That's what we're here for. That's what I believe. But my mission is to inspire people to, what I'd really like to do is inspire a generation of people around the world to incorporate a daily meditation practice into their lives. That's what I'm here to do.
Oh, I love that. And so it would be amazing if every single person on earth can incorporate meditation. It would be such a different world. I love that. So Joy, let's get a bit more personal, deep and personal. So I know you talked about some experiences that you've had where it's been a challenge, but is there a particular experience that you found the most challenging but actually led to your biggest breakthrough?
Well, the most challenging experience would be the one that I have spoken about,
Yeah.
was the separation. I've had some, a lot of challenging experiences in my life, in my childhood, and
Yeah.
but that was the one that really hit me. That's the one that I went really rock bottom. I just felt that my life wasn't worth living. I wasn't worth anything.
Yeah.
It just hit me really hard. It was a time that, and as I said, I was angry, and maybe that the anger that I had was a build-up of anger from all the other times in my life that I've had challenges.
Yeah.
It's like it all came to a head at that point in my life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah, definitely. I think everything happens to us for a purpose, for us to learn
Yeah.
and take the next step. And I guess, if you don't mind sharing, for a lot of people in relationships, you were saying that you thought everything was fine and then it just crumbled. So what happened, or there, or how did you, what was like that feeling of going, what, everything's fine, what just happened? How,
Yeah.
yeah, can you unpack that a little bit if you don't mind?
Yeah, well, I know what happened was that I didn't know who I was. I didn't like who I was. So I take full responsibility for my part in the relationship. But there are two people in the relationship, and whatever the reasons are that my ex-husband's passed away recently, so
Okay.
he's not around anymore. But whatever the reasons were, I've been able to take responsibility, and I really feel that I was, throughout that whole relationship and any relationships that I had prior to that, I was trying to be who I was expected to be. And that's from my childhood. I know that now. I've done a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
I've released a whole lot of things, because I'm a hypnotherapist as well. So I've had
Yeah.
lots of work done. Um, and, I was always trying to be who someone else expected me to be, and that came through my childhood. And and I realize now that you can't live that forever. So what happened at the end was, I was so angry that it was all his fault, and he went off and did the wrong thing, and that sort of thing. But I have to take responsibility for my part in that as well.
Yeah. I mean, the saying, it takes two to tango, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes the other person might do something that people frown upon more than maybe your part, which people don't see. But it does take both parties for things to work, right? Yeah. So thank you for,
Most definitely. And our relationship, when it all happened and we split up, the relationship, because of my anger, um, it was really difficult to even hold a conversation. Well, he didn't want to talk to me because I was always angry. Although, having said that, I didn't display it outwardly. It was all internal. It was this internal anger. But when I spoke to him, and because when you have children, you have to, you're with them for a long time, because
yeah,
you've got children. When I spoke to him, he didn't want to talk to me, so that made me more angry. But I later realised that I was vibrating at this really low level,
mm,
and of course he was picking up on that, even though I wasn't saying angry things.
yeah,
What I was saying was vibrating at that angry level.
yeah,
And what did happen, what did completely change when I discovered meditation, was that I had different conversations. Well, what I felt were the same conversations, but they felt different. And I'll give you an example. I used to talk to my ex-husband on the phone. We talk about the kids, what was happening with the kids, if they were going to him or whatever. We just have these conversations, and my girls would be there, and that's fine. We just regularly have those. And then there was one day I had a conversation, and I got off the phone, and my eldest daughter said to me, "Who was that you were talking to?" And I said, "Oh, that was Dad." She said, "Really?" "Yes." She said, "You've never spoken to Dad like that."
Hmm.
You sounded so nice.
Oh, wow.
And for me, it was like, oh my goodness.
Wow.
I didn't think outwardly I was being angry, but
Yeah.
I was. But, and I realized at that point that that was interesting because that was a really long conversation and he's usually on the phone for only, 30 seconds. Can't
Yeah.
wait to get me off the phone. But it was that meditation changed my relationship with my ex-husband as well. And all I had to do was do the work on myself and meditate on myself, not.
Yeah. I
And I
love.
learned to set love and forgiveness and all of those. And I learned so much more about, you know, the anger that I held inside, how it just wasn't serving me.
Yeah, I love that. And for anyone who's going through a rough patch in their relationship, it's so important to not just look at the other person, but have a look at what you're doing as well. Because a lot of times it might be you vibing at this low level like you were, and that person is responding. So it's just so important to do an audit of yourself and
Yeah.
not just the other person going, oh, this they're doing this, da da da, but looking at yourself as well. So thank you for sharing that. It'd be very helpful to anyone who's going through a rough patch or have been on that path where they're separated from their partner and trying to work things out so the kids don't feel this tension, because it's not nice for
Yes.
the kids either. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow. Thank you. So, Joe, what do you believe? I think you touched on this already, but what do you believe is the greatest lesson you've learned in your life so far?
Oh, wow. The greatest lesson. Well, the greatest lesson is that I'm a soul.
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my labels, I'm not what you think I am. I'm not what, I believe that I was. I am a soul. I think that's the greatest lesson for me. And the best thing that I can do for myself is to meditate and experience that inner peace. I am a soul. I am peace. I am love. They're my greatest lessons.
Yeah, I love that. And, we're all souls in, having a human experience, right? So it's just so important sometimes to not take life so seriously, because you're here for a finite period of time and then you come back and do other things. And yeah, so it's beautiful. Yeah. And it's kind of returning back to that love and joy and abundance. They all go hand in hand. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think I want to actually jump back a little bit. You were talking about when you found that you're a soul, and you're in this body called joy. I love that so much. um, and you realize that you had this mask on this whole time, and there's so many women, so many of us, where we have this mask on and we act like we're fine, everything looks fine on the outside, but we're shrinking and dying on the inside, but no one knows. And it's just so important to really find out who you really are, and really express yourself, so that you're not in this place where you feel that you're not worthy and you're not enough. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. It becomes and from I didn't like myself. I really didn't like who I was. And I believed anything negative said about me. I
Yeah.
wouldn't believe anything positive that was said about me. Even when I worked in corporate, I was very organised and I was very good at had particular skills, those sorts of things. I had this amazing boss that I worked with, and he would tell me, what are the good things about me. He was great. He would talk about those. I wouldn't believe he'd tell me one thing that may have been a weakness that I needed to work on, and I would just focus on that one thing, and that's what I believed about myself.
Yeah.
All those other great things, it's like I didn't hear them. I only heard that one thing. um, so that's about not loving who you are as a person. So I can hear those now and accept that. Okay, but I've got this tools now. I've got lots of wisdom, lots of knowledge, and lots of tools that I can use. And I do always, if I respond or react in a certain way that I don't like, or there's something, I say something and I think, oh my goodness, where did that come from? What was that about? I'll always go within and just check in with, hang on, what was that about? What was coming up for you? Because
Yeah.
things come up all the time and you don't even know it happens. And we've all had that experience where we've reacted in a way or burst into tears and don't know why we burst into tears. It's
Yeah.
like, what was
Yeah.
that about?
Yeah.
So, I've got the tools that, I can look into myself and take responsibility for it and forgive myself for it. Go, okay, that's where that's coming from. Okay, got it. Just move on.
Yeah.
That's who you are. That was just your reaction or your response.
Yeah. And it's also a great reminder for everyone that even if you've been doing this personal growth, personal development journey for many many years, it's not like you don't have emotions, that you become this non-human being that can just not react to anything. You still have reactions and emotions, but is having that awareness as to why, and then working through that. So yeah, love that. Thank you.
And that's a beautiful journey. That's the best journey of all, discovering all of that about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just knowing yourself that, okay, I can stop and I can forgive myself for it, but I just need to understand where that came from. And what that does is that helps you to understand other people. So if someone's getting angry towards me, I know that they're in their pain body. There must be something else going on. There's more going on, and I'm not going to get angry back and have a fight.
Yeah. Exactly. And being able to be
Except if it's my partner sometimes,
yeah.
except if it's kids.
That's a bit different. Partner's a little bit different. But yeah, being able to have that compassion for the other person, right? Yeah, definitely. So Joy, if you could time travel, go into a time machine and go back to, say, a younger version of yourself, what advice would you give yourself?
I would say trust your intuition, like trust it. I knew from a very early age that there was something more than how we were living. Even when I was a child, I just knew that there was something that I wanted to do, or I had this sense of I had a sense of calmness. I was quite shy and quiet as a child, and I did think at the time that I thought that was a good thing about me, but then I believed all those other things that other people said about me. But I think trusting your gut, trusting your intuition, and checking in with it, checking before you dive into something or do something, or if there's something, that is bothering you, always check in, because it's really, really powerful, that gut, that intuition. If it doesn't feel right, you can go ahead and do whatever you want, but you'll probably find that probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Or if it does feel right, and it doesn't, if it feels right, and it's outside of what society or family or friends or everyone would say is that you should be doing, just still go with it, because
Yeah.
your gut is, yeah, it knows.
Yeah. And meditation is a great way to develop that intuition muscle.
It's definitely a great way to develop that intuition muscle, and I use it all the time now. If I've got a decision to make, or if there's, and I look for signs. If there's something I want to do, or a program I want to develop, or we've got a meditation club, and that's something I really wanted to do, and I had this, I get these, it's like downloads
Yeah.
about this is what I should be doing, and I have these visions of it, and I can see it. And I talked about this to Kev, my partner, and I said, this is really what I want to do. And I thought, now what sign do I need to tell me it's the right thing to do? And we're living in lockdown at the moment. Nothing's open. We can't leave our houses.
Yeah.
Like, we can only leave our houses for a couple of hours a day. I thought, okay, it needs to be a sign that's going to appear regardless of what's going on. And I wanted, I can tell you the sign, because it did appear. It was a big cream dream catcher. I saw it. It's like a macrame dream catcher. Okay, if that appears, and not on a picture on the computer, if I'm somewhere and I see that, that's a sign that this club must go ahead.
Yeah.
And I put it out there and thought, there is no way in the world how am I going to see this? I can't go anywhere. I can't
Yeah.
visit. Anyway, I put it out there, said that if this is meant to be, that's what will appear. So after about, I think, a couple of weeks, I did think about it occasionally and thought, maybe not. It still feels like it's the right thing to do, not sure. And then one day, we're only allowed out to shop once a day, and went over to the shopping centre. The only shop, it's a large shopping centre. The only thing that's open is like the supermarket and the fruit shop. And there's a little, like a gift type cigarette. It's not a cigarette shop, but it's like that sort of store. Those sorts of stores that I don't go into.
Like little random things that they sell.
Yeah, just a random kind of store. Yeah. I think they do odd sorts of gifts and things like that. And just as you walk into the shopping centre, just to get around the corner to go to the supermarket. And Kev and I were going in together. We'd been for a walk. We're not allowed to shop together, but anyway, we did. We were there together. We'd go into the shopping centre and separate because only one person is allowed to shop. And we walk through, and every day I go to the shoppings. I go to the shops, walk through, and out the front, at the front door, was this large cream dream catcher, exactly as I had visualised, exactly the same. We're just walking in, and I looked up and I said, "There's my sign. There's my sign." What are you talking about? I said, "That's my sign. This club has to go ahead."
Goosebumps.
And I know the next day it wasn't there. I don't know whether someone bought it.
Yeah.
It hadn't been there previously, and I never even look in that shop. I never look in that. And it was gone.
Love that. I've got full goosebumps. That is so such a cool story. I love it. Yes. And it's so important to follow those signs. I love it. Yeah, definitely. Part of why I started this podcast was along those lines as well, but it's not my story, so I'm going to keep going. So Joy, I know you've touched on this, and meditation has been a big part of your healing process. Were there any other tools or teachers that was helpful as well, or was it really purely just meditation that was most helpful in your healing?
Yeah, meditation was the most helpful for me, but teachers did appear along the way in the form of my boss that I spoke to you about. He was just an amazing person and saw the best in me, and saw who I really was, and was open. And that's how I introduced meditation into the workplace, through him. He was so open to me running some meditation sessions, and I actually opened a meditation room in the in corporate. And then I've had various teachers along the way through Daddy Janky, who was a spiritual teacher who passed recently at a ripe old age of like 102. Was an amazing spiritual teacher, and I've followed I've read lots of books and things like that. So but teachers appear all the time along the way.
Like the saying, is it, when the student is ready, the teacher appears? Is that the saying?
Yeah.
And your old boss sounds amazing. Like there are very rarely bosses that allow you to implement all these things and see the best in their staff, and allow your growth. That's just amazing as a boss.
He did that. He was amazing. He actually said to me when he first came across that you can do nothing in this role, just the basics, or you can make this role what you want it to be. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time, but then when I was going through this journey, that's really what that meant for me. And I was able to I've introduced meditation. I've worked in other corporate offices all around Australia, and I've introduced a meditation program to everyone that I've been in.
Love that. So Joy, I love reading, and I'm pretty sure you do too. So is there a particular book that really changed your life, or just made a really big impact in your life?
I've read so many books. I still read them, love them, but there is one book that I go back to all the time. I've recommended to all my clients. I recommend to all of my friends, anyone I mentor. I've bought it as a gift, I think, for everybody I know. And that's The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I
Okay.
read that over and over again because those agree. I've even developed meditations on each agreement. It's just so powerful.
Wow. You're the second person that's told me that book is life-changing. So I've had, yeah, so over the course of the podcast, I've had, I think, The Power of Now, and now this is the second book that I've had a few people mention. So that must be go up onto my, the top of my list for my reading.
It's an easy read. It's a very small book. There are just four agreements, but it's extremely powerful. And if you live by those four agreements every day, your life will be a breeze.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for sharing that. So, Joy, I know you're in Melbourne, and my heart goes out to everyone that's in Melbourne because it's tough, being in lockdown. And with, the world has been a bit of crazy place this year. Everyone's navigating change, and, there are people that takes it as an opportunity. There's people that take it as like the worst thing that's ever happened to them. Whatever, whatever your views are, people are that things are changing, right? And there are people waking up, starting their awakening journey. What advice or recommendations would you have for those people who are waking up to get rid of any limiting beliefs or fears that they have that is holding them back from, taking that first step?
Yeah. For understanding what your limiting beliefs are, it can be a very difficult process in itself.
Yeah.
I think that most of us don't really know what the limiting beliefs are. We know that there's something holding us back or stopping us from taking that next step, or we might have that gut instinct to do what we're passionate about, but there's something stopping us from doing it. So meditation is really powerful for helping to identify what they might be. Obviously, coaching and some mentoring will help with that, and you would know that, being a coach, that you can certainly help with that sort of thing. But it's recognizing them as limiting beliefs. So just recognizing that that's what it is, acknowledge it, and then work with releasing that limiting belief. And there are many ways to do that, as you would know as a coach. There are some tools and some tips and some things that you can do to release those. And there's working with somebody, I think, is very powerful if you're stuck.
Yeah, definitely agree with that, because you can read lots and lots of books, but if you don't apply it, or if you refuse to really go deep, you can read a million books and nothing's going to work. But having that person there shining that mirror in your face and going, hey, do you want to look here in that deep dark corner that you don't want to look at? It's so powerful. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, extremely powerful. So having a coach or a mentor is very powerful to help you if you feel stuck and you just can't take that step.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Joy, I'm going to take a bit of a turn now. I am all about self-love because that was one of my biggest things that I had to learn on my journey. And I know you've had to learn that as well in your journey. So, as a busy entrepreneur, and I know you're a grandma as well. So, what are your top three go-to activities to really make sure you give yourself that self-love and self-care?
Well, the first one is meditation. Meditation is, for me, the way I describe meditation is that it's an act of self-love. That's what meditation is, purely, simply an act of self-love. So that's my go-to, that's my number one. The other one for me is exercising outside, being outside in nature, going out and experiencing outside. Exercise for me is an act of self-love.
Yeah.
And for me, learning and growing, reading or listening to a podcast or reading something spiritual, that's an act of self-love for me.
Yeah, I love those. And yeah, it's when you read something that's really good for the soul, it just fills you up and energizes you. Yeah. read or listen, whatever you do.
Most
Yeah,
definitely, yeah.
definitely.
And I read and I listen to a lot of I listen to a lot of audiobooks now because
Yeah,
I do a lot of walking outside, so I can get those things done at the same time. But it's really interesting when you go on this beautiful journey of self-discovery. Um, you find that all of the what you're hearing is the same thing, but you hear it in different ways, and sometimes you need to hear it in a different way from a different teacher for
yeah,
it to really sink in. And even
yeah,
after I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I still, have those aha moments listening to
yeah,
somebody that says something. Oh, I knew that, but I didn't really know it until
yeah,
now.
yeah. It's you. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. So Joy, you're just so inspiring. I really love our conversation today. But I really want to know before we wrap up, what is setting your soul on fire right now?
Okay, so right now, what I've done is I've um, used my intuition. I've seen the sign, and I've just launched the with my partner Kev the 123 Meditation Club.
Yeah,
Now that's a club where that is going to allow a generation of people all around the world to incorporate a daily meditation practice. We do daily live meditations every single Monday to Friday, 5 days a week, and a whole lot of other masterminds and things on meditation and personal development. So that's setting me on fire at the moment. I have a YouTube channel which I have a number of meditations. I record meditation. That sets my soul on fire as well. I just
yeah,
love doing that, creating, recording meditations, delivering, and just sharing my wisdom and my inspirations for
yeah.
with other people.
Yeah, I've been on a few of your live meditations and also Kev's, and they are amazing. So definitely highly recommended. So, Joy, thank you so much for sharing your love and wisdom with us today. If people want to find out more about you or they want to join your 123 meditation club or work with you, where should they go and find you?
They can go to 123meditationclub.com, so that will get them into the meditation club. They can have a look at that there. Or meditationforthesoul.com is our web page, and all the information is there. They can find me there.
Awesome. I'll have all your details and any recommended resources available in the show notes so people can reach you. Thank you once again for joining me today.
Thanks, Kaki. It's been lovely.
Awesome. So until next time, I love you, I believe in you, and you're worth taking that first step to the life of your dreams.